Hey y'all, welcome to the first ever episode of the Path of Passion podcast. My name is Jason Holland. I am your host, and yeah, welcome. Like I said, this is the first episode, and in whether or not you're joining us, you discovered us through Instagram, TikTok, or even just Spotify recommended this podcast to you. Welcome. This episode, like I mentioned, is the first one. So, kind of just going to go over the basics, talk about what this podcast is going to be about, who I am, and honestly, just tell the story of how I got here, got to the point of making this podcast, because it'll be beneficial to give you all a little bit of context of why it's named what it is named, and give you a little story on kind of what we're going to be talking about, and it'll give a little bit of context to that. But before we get into that, before every single episode, I want to give a TV show or movie recommendation. I am a big cinema fan. Even though that word kind of has a negative connotation with it, it's kind of overplayed. That's the best way to describe it. I like movies, I like TV shows. That's my way I like to relax. And as somebody who likes movies and TV shows and watches a lot of them, find it hard to get recommendations. So I'm going to hopefully make y'all's life a little easier and give a few recommendations. So this week, with Halloween right around the corner, it's currently October 20th. So Halloween is in two weeks. I think barely 2 weeks, so a week. I'm going to give a horror movie recommendation because I was never a big horror movie fan. Until recently, and I found it hard to get into the genre and pick the right movies that are a good carryover, like a good bleeding ground, like they bleed over really well from like normal movies or like classic genres to like horror, because that can be kind of a hard genre to get into. So I actually have two movie recommendations. And the first one is Werewolf by Night. It's a new Marvel movie, part of the MCU or Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I actually thought it was really good. It's black and white, so it's a play on classic monster films. It's about like these monster hunters get together to like hunt down this one beast, and the winner, the person who kills it, gets like a prize, and they're the master over all monster hunters. It's really good. It's got a really good plot. It's good play on those classic monster movies, I thought, and it's a good borderline. Like it has some gore elements and it has some like horror elements, but it's also more family friendly than most horror movies you'll see. So I thought it was a pretty good transition ground. But the next movie I'm going to recommend is The Silence of the Lambs. That one is if you're not as much of a fan of Marvel movies, superhero movies, that stuff, and want something a little more like action, not action packed, but like action packed, a thriller mystery. That it's a classic. There's a reason people keep recommending it. It's an absolutely phenomenal movie, and I thought it was a great transition. Phenomenal performances, especially by Sir Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter. Absolutely amazing, and there's a reason people keep recommending that movie. So Werewolf by Night you can find on Disney Plus only. Like I mentioned, it's a Marvel movie, so that's where all those are going to be. It's on Disney Plus. And Silence of the Lambs, I'm not 100% sure if it's on a streaming service. I don't think it is, but you can always rent it from Amazon Prime. I think it's like $3.99, $4.99, something like that. Or I found mine for like a few dollars at like a bargain bin at the store, so you can always find it that way. But those are my two recommendations for this week, so we're going to get straight into it. So this podcast, what it's going to entail is I wanted to start a podcast where talk business, or I guess I should introduce myself first. So my name is Jason Holland. I am currently a freshman at Northwest Missouri State University, but at heart, I'm also an entrepreneur, which is kind of counterintuitive. It doesn't really go together going to college and being an entrepreneur, but I wanted to create a podcast to kind of document my journey, but also educate y'all and hopefully share some experiences. And obviously, we're going to talk business. We're going to talk entrepreneurship, but I also have a lot of other things that I'm interested in. Like I mentioned, I love movies. I love music. I'm a big sports fan. I like fashion. I love current events. So it's going to really be a mix of all of it. And since I am a college student, I'm a young adult going into this world, kind of just keep up with current events and talk about current issues and current just things that are going on in the world, things that I find interesting from the point of view of a young adult, somebody brand new to this world, somebody or brand new to the adult life, and just kind of how we see things. But like I said, we're also going to talk business, entrepreneurship, talk about a few of the projects that I'm working on. But like I said in today's episode, it kind of felt like it'd be beneficial if I first start off by telling my story on how I got here to give a little bit of a context for y'all. So, growing up, I had been somebody who I had a lot of passions. My first one that I obviously easily remember is I wanted to be an MLB player. I was bound and determined that my life, I was going to be an MLB player for the St. Louis Cardinals. I was going to be in the Hall of Fame. I was going to be rich, famous, make a lot of money. That was going to be my life. Well, obviously, as you can tell, I'm sitting here right now and I'm not currently on the baseball field practicing. So that did not come true. But that's just to kind of set up that I've always been somebody who I get really passionate about things and want to pursue them. And that hasn't always been how I've gone about it growing up in the pursuing them aspect. I have a lot of things I'm passionate about. So growing up, aside from baseball, my entire family was, at least mom's side, all ingrained into baseball. Like, that was a big part of my life. Big St. Louis Cardinals fan. My grandpa or my pawpaw, he played baseball. He's a big St. Louis Cardinals fan. He played like semi-pro baseball, which was like minor leagues before they were minor leagues, all that jazz. My uncles played baseball. My aunt even played baseball. Like, it's a big part of my life. But growing up, one of the big first things outside of baseball that I remember really becoming passionate about was making businesses. I was always somebody, I was the classic lemonade stand person. I wanted to sell baseball cards, Pokemon cards. I wanted to start a business of some sort, like any way to make money. I think that's one of the enticing things to me that was about baseball, which very materialistic of me, and it's kind of changed a little bit nowadays, but I wanted to find ways to make money because that meant I could buy more things to then make more money off of. So I always had lemonade stands. I was even the type of kid that I ran like deals like buy 2 cups of lemonade, you get a cookie for free. Or like if you get this specially marked cup, you get your cup for free. I always really liked growing businesses, and that was always something I was passionate about too. But outside of baseball and growing businesses, the first thing that I vividly remember, and it kind of starts the journey to where I am today, is when I first discovered YouTube, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I didn't discover YouTube until I was like, I think 10 or 11, just because whenever I had my original iPod, my parents were basically like, hey, like, see that little YouTube app? That's how old I am. That's showing my date, or that's dating me a little bit. I had the original iPod, and they used to have the YouTube app. It came with the iPod pre-installed, and it was a little TV icon. And my mom basically just said, hey, don't click on that. And I said, oh, it doesn't look cool, so I'm not going to click on that. But I eventually got introduced to YouTube, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever because you got to make videos, which I thought was amazing because it's creative, and you got to make videos about what you liked, and people watched them. And then I later found out that you could get paid for it, and my life was like, holy cow, I can get paid to make YouTube videos. So I thought that was awesome. And just content creation in general always enticed me. I was always the type of kid, I'd have to find the footage and post it somewhere. I used to make like fake little movies. I always imagined like, oh, I wanted to act out this super cool battle scene with Nerf guns and like film it and do a war movie. I was somebody that I always liked creating content, always liked creating videos. And that was something I was always passionate about. And whenever I found YouTube, it kind of was like, oh, there's a way for me to actually publicize these things and make them known and get them out to the public. So that was me growing up. Other than that, I played baseball. Like I said, played baseball, and I was really enticed by YouTube. And I started off on YouTube. I actually had a friend at the time. His name's Titus. Voice crack. Oh, wow. No, so Titus was the first person that I knew that was like, oh, I'm going to make YouTube videos. He made YouTube videos about Minecraft and gaming, which was like classic at the time. Everybody did that. And I kind of did it with him, even though I'll explain in a second, I wasn't really allowed to, but I made videos with him. I only ever made one and posted it on my channel, but it was always so cool to me. And I always admired that about him. Like, He was somebody that knew what he wanted, and he wanted to go make YouTube videos, and that's what he wanted to do. And he's still doing it today. I don't know. I think he still games. I think it's mainly Rocket League and stuff now. But he's really the first person in our school and in our town that was like, yeah, I'm going to make YouTube videos. But what I was talking about, I wasn't really allowed to, is I vividly remember this. When I decided I wanted to start making YouTube videos, I texted my mom because I was super nervous about actually going in and talking to her. And said, hey, can I start a YouTube channel? And Titus was on the phone with me. He was hyping me up and everything. And my mom calls me into the room and is like, yeah, no, you're not doing this because YouTube's like sketchy. It was a stereotype at the time. It was the stigma. Like, YouTube's sketchy. It's where like old creepy people go to like spy on kids. Kids don't need to be on YouTube, and all that stuff. So, flash forward to middle school. I was the stereotypical middle schooler when it came to, I was super insecure. I think most middle schoolers are, because it's a weird time in your life where you're like, oh, I am now starting to care what other people think because I'm starting to get feelings for like girls and boys, and like I'm starting to like I wanted to get noticed by this person, and I don't want to embarrass myself. So I came into middle school with a lot of insecurities, like a lot of kids, and one of my insecurities was YouTube. I There was a stigma around it, even though at that time it was like more normal that, oh, you could be a YouTuber. People were still like, oh, that's weird, you want to be a YouTuber, even though everybody did. Nobody wanted to step out and actually make YouTube videos except Titus and a few other guys like Doc, Titus, and a few of those guys. Looking back, they were pioneers on that. Like, they did not care, and I admire that so much. So sports was kind of my MO in middle school. I played sports, so I always hung out with the popular athletes and everything, and I didn't want to embarrass myself in front of them, so I was like, I'm not gonna like make YouTube videos. I'm not gonna do social media because that's weird. So I kind of dropped that, which it was always in the back of my mind, but I was kind of embarrassed by it. And even though I wasn't supposed to make YouTube videos, I actually ended up posting one, that video that I said I made. And what really solidified that for me was seventh grade during a basketball game. It was volleyball or basketball. I had a kid in the grade above me walk up to me, and he just kind of said, like, trying to make fun of me, he was like, oh, I saw you made a YouTube video, like, ha ha ha, like, keep making Minecraft videos, blah, blah, blah. And I remember getting on my phone right at that moment and going and privating the video. And it's still private. Honestly, I should probably make that public at some point just so I can see my growth and everything. But I remember being really embarrassed by it, and I didn't like that feeling. So I was kind of like, yeah, I'm not gonna make YouTube videos anymore. And I kind of lived by that, which was very unfortunate because it was something I was still passionate about. I was always the type of person that if I was doing something, I'd be like YouTube tutorial in my head. I was like, first you need to do this, and then you need to do this, and like, oh, this would be a cool camera angle. It was something in the back of my mind that I just didn't pursue because I didn't want to be made fun of. I started getting out of my comfort zone a little bit though in 8th grade. The summer in between 7th grade and 8th grade, I started getting into like men's fashion and like self-improvement on YouTube, and I was like, oh, like this is cool. I got into a few of the accounts like Teaching Men's Fashion, Alpha M, and those guys, and I was like, oh, like I'll make fashion my thing because like I said, middle school is starting to want to be noticed by people, and I was like, I like girls. I want to like be noticed by these girls. I want these girls to like me, and I started dressing a little better. And I'll tell you, the first thing that was really embarrassing, I remember being really not embarrassed but nervous about going to school on the first day, 8th grade year, and dressing different than I used to, and dressing different than everybody. Middle school, back when I was in middle school, it was knee-high socks, Under Armour athletic shorts, and Under Armour t-shirts, and Under Armour like running shoes. And I show up to 8th grade. That was probably what I wore my 7th grade first day of school, but I show up to 8th grade in a more fitted t-shirt, like no logo t-shirt, a pair of like khaki shorts, and boat shoes. Looking back, absolutely terrible outfit, but it was a lot better dressed than most of the other people in my grade, especially the boat shoes. Blech. looking back, boat shoes, not the move. But I wore that and I started stepping out of my comfort zone and I was super nervous. I remember being like, oh, I'm going to be made fun of. And that's the first time I realized, wow, people really don't actually care that much about other people. And like, oh, this is kind of cool. I need to start doing this more. And yeah, I started to break my insecurity slowly and slowly. Um, Going into freshman year, though, so going into freshman year, high school is also a different breed to where you're like, I'm still super insecure and I'm nervous. That just reaffirmed it because I was like, I've got all these upperclassmen. They're so much older than me. I don't want to embarrass myself. I kept dressing the way I wanted to because I was like, oh, I'm starting to be known as like a stylish slash fashionable guy at the school. I was like, okay, I'll keep dressing the same, and I upgrade my fashion, but everything else, including social media and YouTube, I was like, yeah, I'm still not gonna do this. And like I said, I was athlete, so played baseball still. Didn't play football. I played football my seventh grade year and did in eighth grade, and I wouldn't play it again until my junior year, but we'll get into that in a bit. And freshman year was still like insecure. I wanted to fit in. I was afraid to go after YouTube and that thing that I was passionate about. It wasn't as bad because I was still passionate about baseball, so I was still like pursuing my passion for baseball, and I still wanted to play in the MLB, college baseball, but I was still really embarrassed about YouTube. And that continued until sophomore year. Backing up a little bit though, so like I said, another thing that I really enjoyed was growing businesses. And I started my first true business, and this would be my first like launching point. Seventh grade, when a lawn mowing business, and my dad basically said, "Hey," I said, "Hey," and he said, "My client, my dad's an insurance agent. He's like, my client needs somebody to mow their yard," and I said, "Cool. How much are they paying me?" And he said, $20. And I said, $20 is $20. Sounds good. And I started mowing yards. And that's what I did throughout high school, and that's how I made money. I continued to grow it. Eighth grade year, grew it to like 2 yards. And freshman year, I think I had 3 or 4. And freshman year was also big because I decided to join an organization called FFA. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's the National FFA organization. Basically, it's the largest youth leadership organization in the United States, centered around agriculture. And within this, you have to have something called an SAE project. And SAE project is basically supervised agricultural experience. Basically, it's just a project where you keep track of money and you grow it and you can get awards from it. And they were like, "Hey, you need an SAE project." I said, "Okay, what can I do?" He said, "You mow yards, right?" I said, "Yeah." And they said, "That's your SAE project." I said, "Cool." And that really encouraged me to start actually keeping track of finances and doing actual business things. And I wanted to grow it. But going back to the end of sophomore year. So sophomore year was my COVID year. That's whenever COVID-19 happened. We got shut down from school. That happened in March, so towards the end of my sophomore year. And that's when a little app you may know called TikTok really started to blow up. And I decided, you know what? I'm stuck at home. I'm not going to see these people. I'm going to break out of my comfort zone a little bit more, and I'm going to start posting TikTok videos. Super embarrassing at first. I'm not going to lie. I posted a video and I was like, oh, it's just like a funny video. Like I'll show my friends, blah, blah, blah. Then I started posting more and more videos and they started gaining traction. And I was like, okay, this is fun. Yeah, that's when I started to kind of gain that confidence a little bit. COVID, as bad as it was, and I'm not trying to make light of COVID whatsoever, it was very eye-opening to a lot of people, including me. And it helped me improve all that time by myself. I started to find what I actually liked, and I wasn't around people, so I wasn't worried what they thought of me, and I decided to start posting TikTok videos. That was a big leap. Still wasn't doing YouTube. Wasn't Instagram's another story. Like, wasn't doing that whatsoever. But TikTok was my thing. So I started posting TikTok videos, not really too terribly much. traction or anything. Like I'd get 50 views to 200 views a video, and I was like, oh, cool. I was pumped whenever I got over 100 views. Like it was awesome. And so flash forward past that summer. So COVID happens. Then that next year, I'm continuing to grow my mowing business, which reaffirmed that I'm like, oh, I like working for myself. Like, I like being my own boss, like making my own money. I get to pick my own hours, get to do all this. I basically make as much money as I like want to work for. And junior year, something big happened that kind of also helped me grow my passion for um, social media. But I do need to cover something real quick because I forgot about this. So, baseball, because of COVID, we didn't get to have my sophomore baseball season. So, I couldn't do one of my passions. Like, I couldn't play baseball, which was like, okay, well, I need to find something else to fill this time that I'm passionate about. That's another reason why I decided I was like, TikTok's going to be my thing. So I start doing TikTok. A lot of people were like, oh, you're the TikTok guy now at school, ha ha ha. And I was like, oh yeah, I make TikToks, they're fun. Started getting a little more confidence, watching some like self-improvement videos, which that's another topic we can cover in another podcast episode because there's so many things about that community on YouTube and in general. But self-improvement videos, reading a few books, which I found to be really cool. Some really good self-improvement books that just helped gain my confidence. I listened to a lot of audiobooks. I didn't read them. I listened to a lot of audiobooks while I mowed, so I was multitasking. Think smarter, not harder. Um, but no, so my SAE project, like I mentioned, was mowing. So that previous year, so you can get awards for it, and I had gotten an award at the state level. And basically, with Missouri FFA, they say if you get an award at the state level, you can't compete with that again. I was like, well, I want to keep competing. So that can't be my SAE project anymore. So I was like, what do I do? And the idea actually came to me. A really good friend of mine, Morgan, she had an SAE project called Blooming into Agriculture, where she did blogs over agriculture. And I was like, has anybody done this on YouTube? So I started doing a lot of research, and I was like, National FFA is terrible with their YouTube and video game. Like, last videos were like 6 years ago, and everybody was like, oh, YouTube's starting to catch on, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I think this could be my thing. I love making videos, so I'm going to start doing that. So I presented that, and that's when I started my brand, My FFA Experience. Y'all should definitely go check it out. And that's how that was birthed, and that was really my second business slash brand that I started, and it's just been an amazing thing from there. So that was my junior year of high school. I started playing football again my junior year, and that's really not going to be important until senior year, but I started playing football again my junior year. So I get through junior year, and after that summer and everything, I was literally to the point where I had gotten enough confidence where I was like, I love this stuff. People actually really don't care that much. Like, they're not going to make fun of me as much, or they're not going to make fun of me pretty much at all. So I was like, I do not care about what anybody says about me. Of course, I did have a few more insecurities. Of course, everybody does. And I was still working on them, but I was like, I don't have to be insecure about this anymore. So I didn't really ever tell anybody this, but I started posting a few YouTube videos over like helping teenagers with fashion and like school stuff and everything. I was like, oh, that'll be cool. Like that's some that's never really covered. So I was like, oh, like teenage fashion and like teenage guys fashion and like school help and life help and stuff. So we get through junior year and senior year rolls around. And senior year of football, this is why this is important. Senior year of football, I end up the day before our first game, or day before our jamboree. I was playing middle linebacker at practice, and I ran through the A gap. Center or defensive lineman fell on my leg. I heard a few pops. I fell to the ground, cried like a baby, blah, blah, blah. Trainer comes over, gets me off field. I walk off the field, keep in mind. They're like, oh, I think you strained your MCL. I was like, okay. Put me out 4 to 6 weeks. I was like, okay, as long as it's nothing bad, because I liked football, but I mainly did it to get stronger for baseball. I was like, okay. Well, I go have a MRI. They were like, "Oh, it's just precautionary, blah blah blah." Well, I get home one day, and basically the MRI came back, and they're like, "You tore your ACL," and I was like, "What?" He said, "Yeah, you tore your ACL." Keep in mind, I had been walking on it this entire time. They're like, "Yeah, you tore your ACL," and I'm like, "Okay." ACL was the main thing to tear. Um, it was completely in half, and I tore my LCL and MCL and meniscus as well. So I was like, okay, well, football season's done, but what about baseball? And they told me it was like, yeah, it'd be like 6 to 9 months for recovery. And I was like, oh, okay, wow. Go through that whole process. I will go through that in another podcast, but basically, I go through that whole process. And I'm back for baseball season, fortunately. But I wasn't the same. And it was basically, yeah, college baseball dreams, professional baseball dreams were pretty much crushed at that point. I was like, I can play baseball, but not to the level I was. I actually was talking to like college or so. I had a college coach contact me literally right after I found out my results, and he's like, "Hey, you want to come for a visit? Blah blah blah. We can do a workout and everything." And I'm like, "Hey, I actually tore my ACL, and I didn't hear back from him ever." I was like, "I'd still love to come for a visit." Blah blah blah, and didn't hear back from whatever. That was pretty devastating. That hit kind of made me lack on the my FFA experience content. Stopped doing that for a while. My mental health got really, really bad. Got really depressed, anxious, and my stress levels went through the roof. Everything was just not good. But fortunately, I found a way out of the rut and started posting my FFA again. My FFA experience. I'm just gonna refer to as MFE from now on. Um, I started posting MFE content again, and that started actually taking off. I got contacted by RFD TV, which is like a national news network, national TV station for agriculturalists, essentially, for the ag industry. And they were like, "Hey, we want to show a few of your videos on our TV show FFA Today." I was like, "Yeah, go for it. Like, please." I showed a few of my videos. That went really well. They had me on for an interview on national TV, which was really cool. And that started really taking off. Also, within FFA, I was since baseball was kind of like kaput for me. I decided I was like, I'm gonna run to be a state officer. I had wanted to since my freshman year. I was like, I'll be a state officer for Missouri FFA. So I run for that, and I get that. And I was like, cool. This is gonna be my life the next year. It's gonna be awesome, and it really has been awesome. But when one passion died, another really picked up, and unfortunately, baseball, like I said, didn't work out for me, and it's really unfortunate. But I did still keep going with MFE, and I really found a love for creating social media content, creating content, being creative, and growing business. So that actually ended up winning the state contest, like the state award, and got like a silver rating at nationals this year, which is super cool. But so I get done with high school and I end up going to college. And college decision, you could be thinking this is absolutely crazy because, like I said, I'm an entrepreneur by heart. Going to college as an entrepreneur is not amazing, and my college decision was really tough. One of the things that played into it was, and I'm not going to name these other schools because I don't like spreading negativity, but Northwest Missouri State and a few other schools were some that I toured, and those few other schools, whenever I was talking about like, hey, this is what I want to do. I know what I want to do. I'm like the person. I know what I want to do. I have goals for myself. I said, hey, I want to do this. How does this sound? And they basically looked at me and said, yeah, why would you want to do that? We know what's best for you. We know what you want to do. Like, you need to do what we tell you. I was like, yeah, no, that's not what it's going to be. So I come to Northwest Missouri State on a tour, and I basically told them, I was like, oh, so do like we actually get to do this stuff? And they were like, yeah, if you want to do that 100%, like we got all the studio space for you to do that, blah, blah, blah. We can help you out. And I'm like, this is the place for me. Because a big thing for choosing a college for me was like, I wanted a place I could go where I'd get hands-on experience and actually learn something while I'm there. That's my philosophy on education. Is I'm not a big fan of the education system right now, where it's like we teach you stuff, you memorize it, and then you go do it on your own. Maybe I'm going to tell you what you should be doing, and then we're actually going to go out and do it. And that's what we're doing at Northwest. And they allowed me to really pursue my passion while I was here as well. So I get in, and I immediately joined the Cat Vision team, which is basically the team in Northwest Missouri State that goes and films the football games, puts the videos on the Jumbotron and on the stream, stuff like that. And that was super cool. That's a hands-on experience I got first year. I'm continuing to grow my personal brand. I'm continuing to grow my FFA experience. I'm getting to do this right now in their recording studio. I get to do this podcast, and it was super amazing for me, and that's something that's allowed me to really pursue my passions as well. But school hasn't been all that great for me. I got to be honest, there's a class that I sit in. The major specific classes are awesome. I get the hands-on experience. We were in the radio studio second day of class for the entire until midterm. Now we're in the TV studio. We were working on websites using Photoshop, InDesign, Premiere, Audition, all that stuff. First day. But my core classes are making it a big struggle for me in college, where I sit in my core classes. I remember specifically one day, I was sitting in my computer class, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I hate this place. I hate my life. Why am I here? And I was sitting there thinking this, and I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I sitting in this class when I could be going out, gaining actual experience, actually growing these things? And that's where I'm at right now. It's been a big struggle, I'm not going to lie. I'm continuing to grow my FFA experience. That's been a big thing. We did our first partnership deal not too long ago. I expanded to a team of 4 other FFA members that have been creating amazing content for me. So Kennedy, Colin, Kayla, and Lainey, if you're listening, y'all have been amazing, an absolute blessing, making my life so much easier. So thank you guys so much. Growing that, I get to take over RFD TV. I get to take over their Instagram page this upcoming Sunday and Monday. So today's the 20th, so it'll be the 23rd and 24th. I'm continuing to do that and pursue my passions, but it's been a struggle, and it's made me realize truly how much to this point where I'm like, I really want to be my own boss. I need to succeed in some fashion, in some avenue. I need to do this stuff. And it's made me realize how much I really enjoy it. Another big step I actually took while I was in college too is I recorded a video on my Instagram, and I was always nervous about posting Instagram because that's where the majority of my friends are, or not friends, but majority of the people I know face to face. And I was like, oh, if I post a video, if I start turning this into social media content, they're going to hate me. They're going to be like, oh, that's dumb, all this stuff. But I posted a video. I decided, I was like, I'm going to start going out, building my personal brand, posted a video, and the overwhelming support I got was absolutely amazing. So that made me truly realize how supportive people are, that people that actually love you and care about you, how supportive they are about your passions, and how important it is to actually put yourself out there and actually want to pursue these passions. When it comes to where I'm going to go in the future, I don't know. I really don't know where the future is going to take me. College, I'm not sure. Where my future business ventures go, I want to continue to grow my FFA experience. Again, y'all should check it out. It's at my FFA experience on everything. I want to get into marketing and not marketing and advertising, but marketing at some point for not big businesses, because that market's so oversaturated, but people like me who are super passionate about something but really don't know how to grow it and get to the point where they want to be. Do marketing for them, help them out. I want to get into sports at some point, do sports agency, do sports marketing. That's a big passion of mine. I'd like to get into that. I'd like to get into a lot of avenues. I got a really cool idea for a clothing brand. I want to go wherever my interest and passions take me. I want to do what I love, and that's a big reason why I'm doing this podcast, is because it's giving me an avenue to, one, do what I love and explore, but it's also giving me a chance to document my journey. My hopes are for this podcast that you out there right now, you could be listening to this and you could know what you want to do. You could be super passionate about something, but you're nervous to pursue it. You're worried about all the things that could go wrong. I'm hoping that some inkling in this encourages you in some way to pursue what you're passionate about, to find your path to your passion, to find that path of passion. And that's where the name of this comes from, because I found my path of passion and I see how much joy it's brought me. And I want that for you. I want that for everybody. And that's the message I want to spread with this is no matter what you're interested in, I can guarantee you'd be so much happier doing something you're passionate about, not worrying about that. You may not make very much money, but you're going to be so much happier doing it. You're going to be so happy pursuing what you actually want to pursue. And that's a big reason why I'm doing this podcast and what I hope for y'all to gain out of this. Also, it gives me a chance to document my journey, give me a chance to look back at everything I'm doing and just be like, wow, I've come a long way. Show my failures, show my successes, and just document it. Gary Vaynerchuk's a big guy that I listen to. He said a really interesting thing where when people don't know what kind of content to create, he says, don't create, document. And that's a big thing. And he talks about, he's like, you know how cool it would have been to look back on like a Jeff Bezos or a Bill Gates or Steve Jobs while they were coming up creating Apple and Windows and Amazon. And not saying I'm any of those guys by no means, but I'm like, it'd be cool to look back on my journey and like maybe in the future somebody looks back on this and is like, wow, like let's say one day I create all these amazing businesses and like we look back on this and it's like, wow, like this is where he came from. I think that would be so cool. But yeah, with this, I just hope to spread a positive message and encourage you to do one of the statements I live by, which is, I want you to do what you love.